It's Monday, October 14th, 2019. I'm doing my Tshot, and I don't have any other topics. If somebody wants to leave a comment below and ask me anything about my transition, I'm open to talking about that. I just did last week a reaction video to Trish Paytas's I'm Trans of 10 video, so check that out. That's my previous video to this one. You can just click to the right button, I think, and leave a thumbs up and subscribe and leave a comment if you have any questions about transition. And thanks for the comment, Declan James. Appreciate it. And I know my purpose is to make these videos for other trans guys who need information and are experiencing confusion or rejection, or just need clarification about how to do their Tshot, and that's what my whole channel is about: how to do your Tshot and how to transition, basically. Just having my coffee. And happy Thanksgiving to people in Canada. I don't know if you celebrate on the same day in the States, but yeah, this week as my vacation for myself, I'm gonna probably head over to Algonquin. I was thinking of going to Chicago to see Jasmine Masters' Black Girl Magic show at Roscoe's. It's happening on the 16th of October. But I really need to buy a new phone, and because my phone keeps dying at work, and I need it to get jobs to work. So I think I might just do a shorter vacation, and the drive time is like 8 hours. So my disability with my back, it's compressed discs, crushing nerves, and so even sitting down causes me pain, and kind of 4 hours is my maximum, and 8 hours of driving is kind of really pushing it. So I might do the 2.5, 3 hour drive up to Algonquin. Ontario is quite a large place, so like in the States you can cross like 2 or 3 states in that amount of time, but in Canada it's like I've driven for 8 hours straight heading north and still not gotten out of the province, which is like a state of Ontario. So it's like really, really large. But it's super beautiful, the fall colors, the leaves changing colors. So I might head there with my dog and have a little vacation doing that. So yeah, just some self-care stuff. There's some ideas you can do. Like you can visit your national park and enjoy the seasons changing. So here's my Tshot. I take testosterone. It's made by Valiant, a Canadian company. So support Canada, and remember to vote. It's voting day today. Official polls are open till 9 p.m. tonight. So if you haven't yet, get out there and vote. My personal preference, speaking from my point of view, is to vote NDP. They seem to be doing the most active work for supporting LGBT rights, and taking steps to keep the budget within healthcare and childcare, and supporting lower income families and people in this situation. So yeah, this is what the bottle looks like that the testosterone prescription comes in. I have an alcohol swab here. I'm just going to remember to wipe the top of the bottle, because I warm it up by rubbing it between my hands. And I'm going to clean that a little bit. And you do the injection into your gluteus maximus or your thigh muscle. So I'm going to just set that aside. This is the plunger. I use this for both the uptake syringe and the injection. This is a tip for the uptake. It is 18 gauge by 1 1/2 inch. It could be a 1 inch or a 1/2 inch or 1.5 inch. Like, it doesn't really matter. That's the length of the tip, and they're detachable like that. And you just press it together and turn. And I take the end off. Flip the bottle out, make sure there's no air in the syringe. Put the syringe into the bottle and make sure it's within the solution. Pull that back into the plunger. And then I kind of push the needle up into the bottle, press out the solution, make sure there's no bubbles, and then back down into the solution and pull back. I'm just going to do it closer to my face so I can see what I'm doing. Kind of nearing the end of the prescription, so tend to get a few more bubbles than usual. It's okay to have a couple in there with an intramuscular injection if you have to take a intervascular, an injection into your vein for any reason. You don't want to have any air bubbles whatsoever, and it's usually a much skinnier tip. This is an 18 gauge. You can see it's quite a distance across. That's the distance across here. So I'm going to take this tip off. I've pulled the solution down into the syringe, so it's past this end. And it's just to save you losing those few drops, and that comes off. And then I go with a upside down 22 gauge by 1.5 inch, and that could be a 1 inch or I wouldn't go as small as a 1/2 inch. And I put that on. I keep it sterile by not. I open the package and I don't touch that end there. Screw that on, pull that off, and then I push out the extra air bubbles. You can see it filling into here, and then it'll pop out a little bit at the top. And then I set that aside while I alcohol swab my leg or gluteus area. So I'll do that. So I should get a freshie. Maybe just pull out a couple band-aids so that in case I drop one. And then I alcohol swab the area. I take my syringe, make sure a drop comes out again. I just press it a little bit, make sure a drop comes out again, make sure there's no air. I feel a little poke, so I'm going to just go a little. And I don't go the full 1 inch into the skin. I drop back a little bit, make sure it's not in a vein, and then I plunger that in. Yeah, just don't go full bore and plunger the whole. That's it. Stick a band-aid on there. Yeah, you don't have to put the whole full 1 and 1/2 inch into the area. Because that'd be quite deep into the skin, and as you can see, I'm a pretty average fitness kind of guy. I'm not. I don't have a lot of fat on my butt. So if I plungered the whole length of this syringe tip, it's 1 and 1/2 inch long, it would probably hit my pelvis bone, and you don't want to do that. So I just go to about there, 1/2 inch or so, which is 2 centimeters, if you're metric. And that seems to work well for going into the muscle tissue, getting past the fat cells, going into the muscle tissue. I have heard that people sometimes inject, so it's called subcutaneously, which means your hormone injection is going into your fat tissue. I don't know how that feels or absorbs into your body because I haven't personally tried it. I've always done an intramuscular injection. As far as I'm aware, sometimes I think I don't put the plunger the syringe deep enough into my skin to hip muscle, or it's usually with my injection into the gluteus minimus or gluteus maximus muscle, because I'm not so self-aware in general of my proprioception of my body in the pelvis area, because I have a lot of dysphoria in that area, so I'm not so aware of how large the layer of fat is on my bum, and where the bum muscle is, and where my bones are like located in relation to what the syringe is doing, if that makes sense. But when it's going into my leg, I mean, it just feels really obvious that, there's my leg, I only have this little pinch of fat on there, and the muscles right there, I can see where, maybe because it's visual, and I've been practicing art for a very long time, so I can visually see where my muscles are, whereas like with behind me, like I can't see where my muscles are as often, and I don't look in the mirror much at that area of my body. Maybe that's why. But that's my hypothesis about it. So yeah, that's how to do a testosterone injection. I get my prescription from my doctor. That was kind of a long process. It seems people don't understand. My reaction via to Tshot, I kind of touched on the stages of self-awareness and self-identity and transitioning, but just to clarify, like for me personally, I had to take time off work. I was injured in 2005, and the recession was kind of really hit in 2008, and I worked less and less in 2006 and 2007. It really hit the film industry quite hard, and in 2008 I had no work whatsoever. In 2009 I actually discontinued my IATSE 667 local membership, which is a International Cinematographers Union, and having so much time off work, it made me reflect a lot on myself and my personal situation and how I felt in my body, and so I went on a waiting list for an LGBT doctor, and the wait list was 2.5 years, so it took from 2008 till 2010 for me to get a doctor, and then and the whole time I was at the same healthcare center for mental health counseling, and for my gender dysphoria, and that also, I needed that to prove to help myself. It was a personal choice to have that to help myself, but also to give a history of the need for HRT, hormone replacement therapy, and to kind of validate my transition. You have to be at that time, you had to be in counseling for 2 years. Usually psychoanalyst counseling, which is $100 a session. Fortunately, I was part of the Complete Healthcare Clinic, which had offered me free counseling. So at around the same time, I realized I was disabled, and these other things, like I couldn't work because of my injury at work, and I wasn't pursuing it so much because it was causing me a lot of physical pain. So yeah, that took 2 years, and then once I was admitted to that clinic and had a LGBT GP, healthcare provider, I was rushed through the process, because usually I think it's 2 years from that entering the clinic to having your first hormone injection, but I guess because, well, I was also with a counselor at the same center for a long period of time, so, and talking about dysphoria and identity and my sense of body, my connection with my body, which I wasn't able to reconcile as being a more masculine presenting woman. So it took from the first appointment with my GP, it took 3 or 4 months. I think it was 4 months. I think it was November till April of 2011. And then I was given hormone treatment at a low dose at, I think it was a quarter of what I take now. I was also on depot testosterone at the time, so it's a different amount of prescription. I take 0.5 cc of Valiant, which is 200 milligrams suspended of testosterone suspended in a 5 milliliter bottle. You can see the ingredients here. And the other one is, I think it was, I would take twice as much, so it was 1 cc. But the solution was, it's the same amount of testosterone, but the solution had more of the suspension liquid in it. So it would be like 200 milliliters suspended in 10 milliliters of solution instead, I think. But I don't have that. I can show you the other package next time. But yeah, it took 2 years of wait list, and at the same parallel time, 2 years of a minimum of counseling with a qualified therapist, and then I also had a psychoanalyst meeting where I was assessed. It was an assessment appointment where I was assessed for gender dysphoria under the DSM-5, which is the Diagnostic and Statistics Manual, which is used both in Canada and the United States. It gives a criteria that you have to fit to be legitimately gender dysphoric, and that has to be, you have to be analyzed under those guidelines by a professional psychoanalyst, and that was covered under the umbrella healthcare clinic that had, it has counseling, it has yoga, it has meditation, it has my GP, it has psychoanalysts, it has all sorts of service providers there. And then with that, I then had my GP and had several meetings with her, an intake, a full physical. We caught up on other things like that I was hesitant about because I have dysphoria. I didn't have a pap smear in like 7 years or something. So, and my previous GP was transphobic, so that's why I had to leave that GP. So that was pretty recent, and that's also something that can happen. And I went through, there's a call-in center for referrals that you can request a referral to an LGBT positive or LGBT or transgender specifically trained healthcare provider, trans-friendly or trans-educated healthcare provider. And that's through Healthcare Connect in Ontario. I'm not sure if it's across Canada, but there's probably other versions of the same thing in other provinces. So, yeah, that's how I found my GP and how I got access to hormone replacement therapy. And for the first year of taking hormones and the incremental increasing of my prescription, you start at a low dose and then increase that to what I'm at now, which is 0.5 cc of deletestrol once per week. And that was administered through the clinic. They kept my prescription there, and my injections, I had to go into the clinic every week for a nurse to first my doctor gave me the first month or few months of injections, and then I was able to get them from a nurse who they have more flexible schedules, and then I was allowed to take it home and do the injections myself. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe and hit notifications and ask questions in the comments below. Alright, thanks so much, have a great week, and see you next time.